Today, we're crafting a set of ephemera inspired by the notes Elowen had wrote when she first heard the forest whisper. Welcome back to my cozy corner of the woods. I'm Jessica, and this is Craft Plus Lore, where every handmade piece carries a story from the lost woods. For this project, you'll need aged papers, an ink pen or pencil, a few pressed leaves, and anything that feels like it belongs in an old field journal from the lost woods. Elowen had wrote that the forest didn't speak in words. No, no, not words at all, but rather in feeling, in the way the rustling of the leaves would go through the trees, the creaking of the branches, the way the creek water would rush against the rocks, and the soft breath of the wind. She said you would miss the woods talking to you if you didn't pay attention. She called them whispers, not loud, just faint, and by no means were they frightening. They were just present, but only if you belonged to the forest. Only the ones the forest chose could hear its whispers. She wrote in her diary that she remembers once when the whispers became frantic. Someone had entered the lost woods to do it harm. Off in the distance, she heard a scream. It was definitely human, but the forest absorbed it, and the forest became peaceful again. I'm recreating the kind of notes Elowen had written. You see, when we entered her old cabin, there were little scraps of weathered old paper, but the writing was faint. Some were unreadable. I can imagine they were quick sketches, half finished thoughts, and of course, little observations she didn't want to forget. She wrote that the whispers grew clearer the deeper she walked into the lost woods, almost like the forest was trying to tell her something important. I wonder if it was letting her in on its secrets, or maybe, just maybe, it was telling her it knew all about her secrets. Some say the forest whispers warnings to those who enter it. Others believe it shares memories, old ones, from long ago, before any of us were even here. Us locals, well, us locals think it really depends on who you are to the woods. If you're chosen, then you get the memories, and maybe it lets you in on its secrets. But if you're rejected, well, that's different. Then that's when you get the warnings. And it's best you listen. Otherwise, you're just gone. Elowen, she wrote that the whispers felt familiar, like a voice she'd known her whole life. Maybe an old friend she'd forgotten to keep in touch with. But she couldn't quite place it. I am adding a few symbols and other marks Elowen sketched beside her notes. She said they appeared in her dreams. She also wrote that her dreams felt too real, and most of the time, she doesn't even remember ever falling asleep. She would be in the forest, what she thought wasn't a dream, to only awake in her bed, but to have mud on her feet, leaves in her hair, and sap on her hands. Then she started seeing these symbols carved into the trees and painted with mud on rocks. Even in the parts of the forest she doesn't remember ever going in her dreams. When I found Elowen's diary, one page was tucked between the others. A note, written in shaky handwriting. It said, "It's not the wind, it's calling me." And here it is, a collection of whispers from the forest of the lost woods. A little glimpse into what Elowen had heard and what she eventually had followed. If you've enjoyed this blend of crafting and folklore, let me know in the comments down below. Next time, we'll explore another object from Elowen's diary and another secret the forest has been keeping.